Thank you for that very nice introduction. Good morning, everyone. I was thinking yesterday that my first conference, my first EIE conference, was the one in Warsaw in 1999. And already then I was talking about risk, so that's already quite some time. And I feel very honored and very nice to speak to you here today about this topic. So talking about resilience, we mean then that we should think about challenges. Challenges need to be taken into account. We have been talking quite a lot about challenges in the plenary sessions and in other sessions. Well, how do I see it? Well, we have these accumulating challenges that have already been mentioned. Maybe also a new pandemic coming up. Think also about lack of farm succession. But I think we need to take it a bit further when we really want to talk about resilience. It's what I call deep uncertainties. We should also think about a series of never thought of events happening, so the famous unknown unknown. And then what I'm also a bit worried about seeing as a challenge is that, the next point, is that many of our strategies, public policy, private strategies, even our teaching, it stays a bit behind because it's based on the vulnerabilities and the drivers of the past. Well, what then is a resilient system? A resilient system is able to keep on going even when big crises happen, and even when crises happen that you didn't think of before. The concept developed from ecological concept about contamination of lakes. For instance, how does a lake recover after a contamination? To a concept applied to socio-economic systems. And that is where relations play a role, where investments are made, where decisions are made, and where power plays a role. Can I ask you a small question? What is making you yourself resilient? What do you think that makes you a resilient person for events that you don't even know of? Can you think about that for a second and tell your neighbor what is the main factor for yourself? Why are you resilient for big crises, deep uncertainties coming along? And tell your neighbor. Go ahead. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that talk. It's now the most difficult thing to get you quiet again. But this is exactly where I wanted to have you. I heard laughter, and I heard talk, and I heard a lot of enthusiasm. Well, that's very nice to see that you like talking about resilience. I think you all had an opinion about it. But it has also been, I think, clear that for all of you, resilience meant something else, and you probably all meant different factors why you feel resilient. And that is exactly the point here. So the title of this slide is Why is Resilience Complex? I should say why it's interesting to work on it. It's a latent concept. So it's there, it's in you, it's in the system, but you're not so sure how it actually materializes when there is a crisis. You don't even know whether it materializes. And I'm also sure that many of you mentioned all kinds of factors, and I think you didn't mention your income as a main factor driving your resilience. Well, hey, that's often what we measure. When we think about resilience, we think, okay, let's measure income, because, well, that's a good indicator of resilience. It is a good one, and certainly important, but I'm pretty sure that you didn't talk about your income just a minute ago. So why is it interesting? Not only because of this latent concept. The next bullet says, risk, it's not so easy. And already this has been recognized a long time ago, of course. Among others, in the book of Brian Hardacre, Coping with Risk, they indicated it's always difficult to talk about risk. That's just how it is. It's also for us difficult because we don't have data. Also because we as humans, we always like to not think about these bad events happening. And also, it's not so easy to think about the future and imagine what's happening and the risks that may happen. What is also making this a very interesting field of research and societal debate is the last bullet. The core, the building blocks of resilience, that is buffers, diversity, agency, connectedness, these are characteristics of systems which are very different than what we currently have. So whenever I have a discussion about resilience, this last bullet becomes really inconvenient. Businesses say, well, yeah, Miranda, nice, but it's not how we work. We are working agile, we work just in time, we work efficient, we work monoculture and big. So what are you exactly talking about? Well, all these things make it interesting. I wanted to prevent using the word complex, but hey, it's here on the slide. So I didn't want to do that. Then there was light at the end of the tunnel. We did the SureFarm project. Very good consortium, SureFarm consortium here standing in Wageningen on the campus. And if you look quickly, you see quite a lot of agricultural economists here on the picture. But you also see people whom you don't know, because this is also a mix with farm demographics colleagues from policy, and colleagues from agronomy. Because all these other domains, they come into play. And the research agenda that I finish with today is really interdisciplinary for that purpose also. So what the SureFarm consortium, you mentioned as a successful consortium, but I think, yeah, it was nice because everyone was so eager to work on resilience, maybe because of that previous slide with all these nice, challenging questions. So actually, we took a whole year, maybe a bit long, to find a very nice framework. And I can recommend that for all the bigger projects, do that. Spend time thinking about your framework. What are we doing together? And this is what we did. And of course, we were not the first one to do this. We built on the shoulders of Ika Darnhofer, for instance, who talked here on this EIE conference in 2010 on resilience of farms. We built on earlier work on resilience of bio-based systems, and as earlier mentioned, the ecological systems. So we had these 5 questions: resilience, of what, to what, for what purpose, what capacities matter, and what are the building blocks, the attributes. And we applied it to farming systems. We thought that is really an interesting application, really an interesting unit of analysis. While I'm aware that farm, food chains, food systems, they're all relevant, but we applied it to farming systems and have an illustration about that, what we mean. Just one more addition about our framework. You can read it from 2 ways. From the top to the bottom, you read about knowing about specific resilience. So for specific hazards, what can be done? What is the impact? What can be done? And when you read from the bottom, I would say that's the most challenging part. You read about these building blocks. Those building blocks that businesses always say to me about, well, that's not how we work. But I think these are the core elements of resilience in the end. And I'm pretty sure that in your conversations a minute ago, it were these resilience attributes that you recognize easily for yourself, So diversity, appreciation, agency, you are connected. I'm pretty sure that that is what you talked about. But for our farming systems and for agri-food chains, these are the most difficult ones to measure and to stimulate. A few illustrations. So we focus on farming systems because we thought that's a good unit of analysis. It means not only the farm, but also the interrelated partners around the farmers, neighbors, but also supply chain actors. Another illustration is that yesterday Robert put it up as well in the context of discussing the role of technology and digitization. We really wanted this. We wanted to look beyond what you see on the left. That is how maybe you think about resilience, okay, you do your best to come back to what you did before the crisis. But we really wanted to think a bit out of the box. We wanted to stimulate discussion and we wanted to investigate what are ways to adapt and transform to better deal with challenges that are many. So this is really, the philosophy of Shore Farm, I would say. Then what we did. So we had this framework, these 5 steps, and we had multiple disciplines on purpose, so not only agricultural economists, but we worked together with the disciplines I mentioned before. We looked also at multiple time periods. I know, I said it's a latent concept, but you can learn about that. When you look back and look to how people responded to crisis, you can think about foresight studies and looking forward. And we were lucky, if you can say it like that, that we had Corona, the COVID-19 epidemic, in the middle of our project. And we had one of our colleagues saying, well, now we just published this nice framework. If it's a good framework, we should be able to apply it to this unknown event that no one could ever think of. And that is what we did. And that is also why I say the Shore Farm Consortium has been so good, because everyone did extra work. It was not in the description of action, not at all. So it was all, extra steps taken. And that is, in a way, unique, but also a unique opportunity to do that. We also use multiple methods, the last gray block here on the right, where we look in many participatory approaches, but also through statistics, econometric analysis, farm structural modeling, and so forth. At first I thought, I think I was lost for about a year. So first we had the framework, and then we started to apply all these dimensions and methods and time periods to our 11 case studies. And I think I was lost for about a year. I thought, oh no, everything is different everywhere, and oh no, like you were talking, everyone talks about something else. So I thought, where are we going? Where is this leading to? But then you see the benefit of this framework, and it keeps you in a structure, and it enables you to look at what your findings are and bring everything together in learning about relations and patterns and what is important. And then you suddenly realize, although these case studies were all so different, ranging from intensive systems to very extensive and many other differences, that the patterns about resilience that come out, that start swimming above, they actually, there was really a common line in that. So that was good to see, and I was not lost anymore after that period. Now I show you a few of these more disciplinary work that we did to see also the richness of and the breadth of the resilience topic and the different disciplines that can come together. I think I start with farm demographics. So we used all the knowledge on the challenges and the out-of-the-box thinking about transformability to look at farm generational renewal. And I think, from all the many work we did, I can conclude that the current farm generational policies, subsidies, the young farmer payments, they keep on looking for the same type of farmer, which we always had, but who is maybe not the resilient one caring about these resilience building blocks, so to say, for the future. So that is what I learned from that work. We also did numerous policy assessments and developed for that resilience assessment tool. It's shown on the right. And we looked at European level policies, national, local, and we looked at factors stimulating, but also hindering resilience. And I think what I can overall conclude from all the work done here in this field is that most policies still focus on robustness, so that one capacity of resilience, so go back to what you did before the crisis, but not so much on adaptability and transformations. And we also looked at the Green Deal, and also there we saw that there's a lot of good things in it, but we could not find any incentives and any stimulants towards these resilience attributes. So a lot of initiatives and so on, but the difficult resilience building blocks, they were not touched upon so much, while that is, in the end, the core thing that you talked about, I'm sure. We also looked at risk management, and so much work was done that I couldn't fit in the picture anymore. We used various methods, telling stories. We looked at networks of influence. We looked at perceived resilience. We developed a very novel type of insurance, insuring from space. That's the title there. We looked at the role of multiple actors also. Much to conclude here, but overall, my conclusion is that farming system actors, so not only the farmers, but also these other actors in the chain, they feel, they perceive, they are very good in being robust, but they feel they don't have the capacity to make these transformations that are needed for the future challenges. That is, for me, a big lesson learned there. Yeah, there's so much to say here, but okay, let's maybe do that tonight. We also had colleagues from the agronomy, the agricultural practices. Also very interesting work done there. A lot of participatory assessments, among others, looking at sustainability and resilience together, and how that informs the development of alternative farming systems. And whoa, there were really good ideas for alternative systems for the future. So thinking about these challenges, what are good systems for the future? Still, I think we could have done that a bit better, not only talking to these sectors and the provinces and so on, but I think we could have gone 1 mile further there, also talking to people outside the sector. So that's maybe for the future. Well, then we are here mostly agricultural economists, and in general, we don't like so much diversity of findings. Maybe you also feel a bit lost. So actually, this is what we want. We always want one indicator, or at least a limited number of indicators. And that is also what we worked on. And thinking back about the presentation from David Just and wondering where is the risk in the agricultural economics literature, actually, this is the work that goes in the ag econ literature. And all the other publications I showed before are not in ag econ literature. So this is indeed what agricultural economists like, aggregating into indicators. And we worked on composite indicators at farm level. And now in follow-up work, beyond Sure Farm, work on resilience scores per farm. And we have a nice organized session about that later this afternoon. If you want to know the details about this graph, we can do that. In this graph, by the way, we show the difference between specialized farms and mixed farms. Alphonse warned me not to use small font, and maybe that it was too small, so that is why I mentioned mixed and specialized practices there. So this is what we like. This is the towards one indicator that is also relevant. But don't forget, so this is really interesting and it's really relevant, and we can easily interpret and communicate about it to policy. But keep on thinking about these 5 steps of resilience and the attributes. And yeah, of course, this is only, if I may say, the farm level. And there's much more to be understood. Well, let me then reflect a bit. As I started in the beginning, I'm already walking around for quite some time in the risk domain and in the resilience domain also. And there's always recurring questions. We had this frequently asked questions in the Eurochoices, a special issue on resilience. And many of these, you come across many of the same things all the time. So, this first point, it's also not a convenient one. Many farms are going out of business, so they were not resilient. Well, remember that there is many reasons to go out of business. That is what we should keep in mind here. It also matters what is happening with the farms that are being sold. What is happening with that area, with that farm. Remind also, that's also a recurring point, resilience and sustainability, they go together. So let's not develop systems that are super resilient, but not sustainable. Or vice versa, let's not develop very sustainable systems that are not resilient at all. I was thinking here about a discussion we had a while ago, where drought issues were fixed through irrigation. That okay, it's resilient. I thought, no, cannot be. Or shouldn't we at least look also to the other functions in the area? Yeah, so that is it goes together, and it should go together. Third bullet here, a recurring point. I already mentioned it also, that these resilience attributes. So remember our framework that was starting at the bottom with these attributes: agency, buffers, connectivity, diversity. They are not popular. They are key, but they're not popular. They're not popular in the current businesses because it's so far away from practice. And they're also not popular among us because they're a bit more difficult to measure and study and bring together and interpret. So there is much work to be done there, I think. And also, let's keep on thinking that resilience is not only about one function. So it's not only about making sure that there is enough income after a crisis, but there's multiple functions, like also the environmental issues after a crisis, to be addressed and to be looked at. Then I go to my next slide, which is about this research agenda. I actually had it at first instance so full that it was way beyond the 1 page of the slide. I thought, no, that cannot be. Let's bring it together again. So here is what I think the work that needs to be done in the coming years. And it's good that I still can go for a number of years, I think. So it's interdisciplinary, that's to start with. I was thinking, do we need more theory building? This session is called about theory. I was thinking, do we need really more of that? I feel quite happy with the framework and the capacities and the attributes, and yeah, we've done some fine-tuning meanwhile. But yeah, I'm quite happy there. Maybe you have other ideas. Maybe you want more theory on resilience. I think we definitely need to improve our understanding of risks and vulnerability. So remember my first slide, the deep uncertainties. Something difficult, something that we cannot easily grasp, but we should think about it. And I think we should also do this at other scales. We looked at farming systems, super relevant, but I think I also want to understand this at household level, how are consumers reacting to shocks. I want to understand food supply chains, the critical infrastructure, what does it do, how does that go? National level, European level, global level. And I also would like that both approaches, so the modeling and also the participatory work, is being used there. So definitely also the modeling. I think there is much work to be done there and understanding deep uncertainties at all these scales that I just mentioned. The third bullet, yeah, it's also for me a very important one, because if these resilience attributes are so important, and the next question is, how can we get it more into the decision making? So it did not land in the Green Deal. It lands now a bit in the LEAP framework. It was mentioned earlier by Marianne from OECD. It's the framework that banks start using. As of now, September, they have to use that to show their risks. Yeah, so this resilience governance needs attention. So these attributes, okay, they're inconvenient, but they are important, and they should inform more our governance. And I know that we get more attention for cooperation and yeah, working together in the region and diversification, but we need much more of that. I think we also need to extend further our measurements of resilience, because, okay, we measured a lot, but we should keep on going, understanding relations and trying to see the common patterns that explain resilience. And last but not least, we also need to rethink our teaching materials. And yeah, I would also be very interested in working on that, because it lacks risks, deep uncertainties, and it also lacks a lot about these resilience attributes. A lot of the teaching materials have been developed in, yeah, much more certain times. And I think that needs some work and revising. Well, that's it. 35 minutes. Thank you.